But I think maybe some of you know or some of you don't know, but I'm a mom. I'm a mother, like probably many of you here, or a parent. And so I, just want to give this example of birth because I have 3 children. And my first child was born at home in a very natural birth. Like I got to witness this one example of birth where, you're contained and everything is safe and there's an environment of calm. In fact, at that time I was working on translating the Gita into Tamil and Sanskrit and reading it every day. So my daughter, who was in the womb, she heard this every day. So she had probably the most ideal environment for a birth. And when she was born, I was making, labor began, but I was making pumpkin pies. I put them in the oven, had the baby. The midwife just about made it in the door to catch her, and had pumpkin pie. It's that easy. It's just like amazing. I didn't know birth could be so easy. And when she was born, the most amazing thing is that you could see that she was clear, like she was consciousness birthing itself. And her eyes were very open. And we had a few people around. She opened her eyes and she just kind of took in everyone around her from this place of complete ease and comfort, just like consciousness, touching consciousness. It was crystal clear. And she just was like a little bird after that, just chirping every now and then. She didn't make any sound, other than she didn't really cry. She just chirped and was very comfortable in herself, a real at easement, until she got her first shot. That's in 10 days, that's when I heard her cry. She just got one shot, and that was it. But so she's developed in a certain way where she didn't have birth trauma. That didn't happen for her, so her development was very different. And it's interesting to watch when birthing happens. It's very natural for the first movement of the baby, of the infant, is to reach out. So we naturally, when we're born, we reach out into the world. Like she first reached out with her eyes, and then they reach out with their mouth to go to the breast. And so it's a natural inclination to connect. So right there comes that initial movement to connect and to stay connected. And then attachment, healthy attachment needs to develop, of safety and feeling held, so development can happen. So that's the best case scenario right there. Yeah, but important to remember that for all of us, it's natural to extend and reach out and to connect. We only learn how to disconnect. It's not natural to us. We learn to protect, to guard, to pull back, and to suppress. It's not authentic to us. But the beautiful thing is that this authentic and natural impulse to connect and to express ourselves with ease and comfort as we are never diminishes. It's always there. So it's just as in the meditation that I was guiding all of us in, is that resource is always available. And that's we could call it the spring of love, of self-love, of belonging. It's that longing that each and every one of us has to belong, to feel that sense of belonging, of being held, and our humanness. Now, if we weren't human, I couldn't even know what the case would be because I'm human. And there's all kinds of spiritual experiences we can have, and we can seek out, and we can try to attain and accomplish, some other state. But that's just a state that comes and goes. We always return to our humanness. I don't care what anybody says. As long as I'm human, I know that I'll always be human. So often what can happen in spiritual practice is try to bypass or override this human longing to belong and to find some other safe place that doesn't fulfill our human needs. Our human needs to feel safe, to feel connected, to develop as we naturally would, and to have our most authentic expression. The one that feels real. The one that lets us dance and sing our own song, whatever that might be. So this is a really important part of the journey. And suffering is complicated. Oh, it's complicated. It's multi-layered. So if you have a different scenario in birth, which many people do, and I'll give the example of my twins that were born 2 years later. Everything was going along very fine, and I thought my plan was to again have another home birth with the same midwife. And she said, this body really knew how to birth babies, so of course we're going to allow you to have your twins at home as well. Felt very confident in that. And things continued, and about 6 months in, I had Braxton Hicks, which is kind of an imitation of labor. It's kind of like the warm-up. And with that, because I was 39 at the time, as you get around the 40, they start to get a little cautious about home births and what might happen. So I had a backup plan to go to a hospital if need be. So this imitation labor began, and I called my midwife, and she was out of town, so she said that I should go get checked at the hospital. And so I went to our local hospital, and there at the hospital, they had me tell my first birth story. And they said, well, if your first baby was born that fast, then these babies are going to be born just as fast. We don't have what is required to attend to them if they come now. Not even considering that it would be Braxton Hicks. So, and without my midwife, it's interesting what happens in the field of Western medicine once you're enlisted, yeah, good name, registered, sounds a little kinder, into a hospital, you're kind of in their domain, so you need to kind of do it the way they want you to. So before I knew it, I was on a helicopter ride to Stanford, and it was kind of the hospital visit of no return. So what ended up happening is my twins then were born 3 months early. So the doctors decided that it was true labor, and then they wanted to assist it with Pitocin and other things. And I got set up for a C-section, just in case. And they didn't really have a clear picture of how big they were or anything. It was kind of, and they wouldn't allow my midwife to come in. So it was really in their jurisdiction, and it was quite a bit of a takeover. But anyways, what unfolded from that was a very traumatic birth. So it was a takeover, and these babies weren't born naturally. So there was Pitocin that they were impacted by, there was the C-section, and there was the lungs not developed because they were 1 pound, and they needed all kinds of oxygen. So they had brain trauma at birth, besides being taken out of the womb quickly into a cold room, sterile environment, something very different. So that, you could say, is like on a whole other spectrum of trauma. And there can be anything in between. But this birthing process has a tremendous impact on all of us and how it gets handled. The circumstances of that birth, the environment that we're born into, and if the reaching out, that natural impulse to reach out, even when there's trauma, there is still that reaching out. It doesn't go away. It's still there. It's our most natural impulse. It's built in. It's who we are. Who we are is connected. We're connected and we're whole. And then we will live that out. Our yearning will be to live that out, to belong. So no matter what the degree of the trauma, the reaching out is still there. So that attachment can happen, a healthy attachment. So if that reaching out isn't responded to, or it's responded to with rejection, or by not being attended to, by not having the diaper changed, or by not having the cries answered, or by not having the holding met, then there will be in the system trauma. And this, I speak about this because I want to kind of give a picture of the complexity of the spiritual journey as we open up to this deeper resource in ourselves, and how within that we can allow these multi-layers of trauma, to unravel, of the human experience, all that this physical form has gone through. First in the initial family, and then the conditioning that may take place in school or in the churches or in the media and the society and the cultures. So what we are as humans, we're porous, and we're open and we absorb. So we can have this, in ourselves, and we can learn early on to pocket, to suppress different aspects of our humanness, because we need to learn to adapt. We develop strategies to get on, to zip it up and, navigate life in whatever way we can. And we learn that, and we do our very best not to upset early environments because we want to belong, we want to please, we want to be liked, we want to be taken care of. Not only do we want that, we need that. So as we develop in it, when that doesn't happen, then we can be living out our missed experience. And the longing is to complete that missed experience. And I know you know what I'm speaking about because Ron Kurtz, he filled this out quite well. It's a process of filling in that missed experience and humanness. And as awakening happens, it doesn't necessarily attend to all of the aspects of the human condition. Well, let me tell you this, that it's a tremendous support and help. It's essential to have a foundation, a ground, a stable place inside where you can resource yourself. To be able to contact that and access that inside, that really supports the rest of the journey, to fill itself out, to complete itself, or the human parts that need to be healed and attended to and met for that to happen. So this resource, it's almost as if here, the birthright is of life and of love and of belonging. And when we can settle here, we will naturally perceive from that place. So when we're settled here, we can perceive that life is a place to belong. And what will open up to us, we'll perceive connection, we'll perceive safety, we'll perceive trust, and we'll know how to follow that. It's as if we get informed from the inside. Not many of us drop go to perceive from here, from this deeper well that's very resourced and open in the heart. Often what happens is we perceive through our minds. And when we're perceiving through the mind, we will perceive limitation. We will perceive the world is not a place to be trusted, or people aren't safe. Or we'll see and experience separation, because the mind is what retains the memory, even though often distorted, of our early experience that has happened in the past. And it will distort, and if we're just perceiving from there, we'll project our early experience onto the outside. And that's why it's complicated, because then that early experience repeats itself. And then we develop patterns of behavior, patterns of pain, patterns of suffering, patterns of disconnect. And they're just patterns that then with it comes all kinds of sensations. But they're on the surface. They're not natural to us. They were learned. They grew out of whatever the early experience was. And that's the layering. That's why I say unraveling suffering can sometimes be complicated, because we're peeling back pattern layers of behavior, and perhaps often, yes, suppressed unconscious material, suppressed wounding, suppressed pain that then gets acted out. And we see this. It's endemic. It's an epidemic. Look at the leader of our country. Oh my gosh. Is a very acting out his pain in a really big way. And there aren't many people that have like an easy birth, easy childhood. But the process of awakening, I remember one time early on, I was with Adyashanti and some other teachers before that. I kind of was born into this longing to belong. It was really alive in me. The seeking, the longing to belong and to connect and to be at ease and to not suffer was very strong in me. So I've been down many roads. And I remember sometime with Adyashanti, I used to go on retreats, and I get a lot of symbols and images, and I dream a lot too, so I see things in pictures. Even when I sit, I don't ever prepare a talk, but I listen inside of myself and I get pictures, downloads of images, and then I try to give words, to what I'm seeing and feeling and sensing, because it's very alive for me. So then I'll draw pictures of what my experience is. And I used to every now and then send Adyashanti a picture. And I remember very clearly one time I drew this mountain. And on one side of the mountain was the journey of seeking and all of the different ways in which you can get to the top of the mountain, and the little, the bypasses that can happen. And there can be the direct path going right up, and my path wasn't quite that direct. But the most important part for me that I really emphasized in the picture was up at the top. I drew a flag that was kind of, put down on the mountain, and it said, enlightenment. I am here. I have arrived. And because the whole thing was that was what I was thinking all the time, that I was going to get to this place of arrival in completion and just hoist the enlightenment flag and be done. My practice was about that. Everything that I read about is okay, I'm going to get there. whatever state I read about. And I had many different states, and then all the different ways to try to make them permanent. It was so clear to me. But in this particular retreat, what opened was that a real journey was going back down the mountain. And there were all these stones and rocks, and there were tombstones. There was grief, and there was death, and there was disappointment. And I had to pick up all of those and experience each and every one of them. Like everything that I had stepped over on the way up, I had to pick it up and bring it all the way back home into my heart. And that's the real journey, the real coming home was any unfinished, unresolved parts of my humanness to collect again. To let all the orphans come back home. All that had been set aside, kind of, no, you're not welcome here. And what came with that is just this tremendous compassion that might have been missing before then, just like this wide compassion, like seeing kindness and compassion is the most essential ingredient. That comes also out of this longing, out of this love that we are, that can welcome everything, that can allow everything to come very close to be touched, and to let yourself be touched, to feel. So a lot of that happened, a lot of grieving. And grief is often what covers love. Just sadness of a missed experience, of something that was wanted and didn't get to happen, or something that was lost. Something really important, like another person, a relationship, a loved one, a pet, all of that. Whenever we connect, and when that is no longer here, there's a natural grief that comes. Our culture isn't very well versed in allowing for the process of grief. And maybe more so in some circles, which is wonderful. The importance of that, because that allows us to once again be fresh, to let our longing again reach out. And the reaching out is really a doorway to intimacy. That's how we become intimate. If we don't reach out, we don't know intimacy. Because as soon as we reach out, that reaching out is coming right back to us too, because we're always reflecting out here how we're perceiving from here. So if we're open enough here to reach out, reaching out to us is already happening. It's like you come here and it's like, yeah, come closer, come closer. Come closer. I want to see you. I want to see who you really are. I want to see you. I want to see all of you. No shame. All is welcome. I want to see you. I want to see all of you. No shame. All is welcome. Oh boy, does that open us up. And along with the compassion and the kindness is the need for safety. Yeah, because if we've been uprooted and shaken, we need that safe place to land. And it always begins with us. Always. And when we do that, then we can sense Where do we resonate with safety in another? Like the presence of another to help us land more fully. Often the presence of another is required to go to these places that might really be held in tight. Longing for belonging. Longing for belonging. And that's our wholeness. Our wholeness, once again, is experience. Not taken away ever, just covered over. Covered over. Not anew, just covered, so we unpackage it. We just unravel. We unpack what's already here. That's our authentic expression and able to live itself, free itself. And for me, it's been a journey. It's been a process. It hasn't been this one-time thing. And it seems the more you open, there's even always more to open to. Because we're not separate. We essentially are not separate. So our sensitivity increases the boundary of who we think we are, includes all of humanity, not a singularity here. There isn't one. So our compassion just then can spread out in all directions. So needed right now. And it's rising. Our love is rising. This is the way. I had the good fortune of listening to Marianne Williamson in Scotts Valley. I'm sure many of you know her. She's most well known for popularizing the Course in Miracles. And the first book that I came upon of hers many years ago was Return to Love. Beautiful book. But what a courageous woman. I don't know if any of you have listened to anything of hers, but wow, she's a force. She's incredibly brilliant. And whatever her chances are of making the Democratic candidate position, doesn't matter, because the message that she's bringing forward is so essential and it's being heard in so many places. It's quite remarkable. I never went to a political rally before. Never been interested, but I'm listening to her and I'm like, well, yes, this is included too. There isn't any division between politics and spirituality. I mean, yeah, this is like for the human, by the human, for the people, by the people. We're talking about us, all of us. So, what an amazing thing. And I just got reminded, she gives like this amazing course in history. Like in case you didn't get it right, here it is. and what democracy is for. It's for the people and by the people. And it's been sabotaged, it's been taken over, it's so corrupt. By fear, it's coming out of fear and pain, really deep pain. Where people don't belong to themselves. They haven't arrived close to home. So distant and separate. To be able to behave in such unconsciousness. So I probably said more than enough. But I loved just coming here, drive up here, and sitting here with all of you. It's really quite a delight. I hope that something that I said is useful and meaningful in some way.